Hey, I understand we have a lot of bad wrestling nowadays, but back in the day, you could actually have one or two good shows to watch that were not WWE. Now, one of them used to be TNA around at least '07 to probably '09, before it went bad around 2010, and it's trickled down to at least average around 2 million viewers to now bare minimum of 100K. Now, another show that I actually grown to appreciate around the times is something that a lot of work rate jobbers have ignored, probably don't bring up that often, because it has something to do like strong style lucha libre while making it a interesting show. It's called Lucha Underground. Now I feel like people are sleeping on it because it hasn't been airing. It hasn't aired in years. Most of the guys from Lucha Underground are probably in other promotions or signed by AEW. And they're kind of trying to enforce that same stigma storylines on MLW with the former manager there. Now he's the manager on MLW. So you know a lot of the guys that are probably still in the indies or is big or in WWE, like a Ricochet, that was Prince Puma, Killshot, that was Swerve Scott, Penta, a Phoenix, Drago, Aerostar, Brian Cage, Sami Callihan, Taya Valkyrie, John Morrison. Like, it's a bunch of who's and characters that they had to change to fit with the theme. And here's the thing I respect about Lucha Underground. It had its own stipulations. It made sure it was a cut above the rest. A cut above the rest. It was like they have their temple was their own impact zone. They had their own consensualized identity. They always had like a own mythos to it. They actually had major feuds that you could remember. Like I think like whenever you hear people even bring up Lucha Underground, they're gonna bring up that storyline they had with Vampiro and Penta a lot, or Prince Puma, Cuerno, Matanza, and that's good. Like, you can tell a show is good when you can remember at least over 10 wrestlers and remember the spots. A lack of freshness that AEW doesn't have. And you could be like, AEW has freshness. Look, Lucha Underground made itself notable not because of the debuts, okay? It actually had crazy shit. You wouldn't know Angelico if it wasn't for him jumping off the owner's office to the ladder, drop kicking somebody. John Morrison doing crazy shit. I'm sorry, his name was Johnny Mundo at the time. Joey Ryan. You wouldn't know most of the indie jobbers that there would be right now that are still on Impact, Dynamite, or WWE without Lucha Underground. And I think a lot of more of the cinematography, especially in storylines and matches, were influenced by Lucha Underground. Although overhead camera used for a lot more matches. And just overall, like, more spot fest because of Lucha Libre. That's Lucha Libre style. They'll use spots a lot more, but they'll try to push over cinematography. It's highly more Spanish related. Dude, they had a bunch of baddies on Lucha Underground. There's a few things that they weren't trying to advertise just the wrestling. That's the best thing. They had cooler concepts, like a secondary belt that it's kind of like the X Division title back around like 2011. It's like an option C, but all year round. At that point, they have their own freaking hardcore Royal Rumble. It's called Aztec Warfare, and it's like, an actual gimmick match that I can get behind, where you can do whatever you want. So you can eliminate guys over in the top rope, or you can pin them, and you can bring weapons in. It's an insane Royal Rumble if you had more fun with it. Casket matches were the norm. You had Eva Lee, Thunder Rosa before she got popular. just a whole lot of interesting characters or guys that are already perceivably over, and even Rey Mysterio was when he was out of the WWE for a short amount of time. He came over to Lucha Underground and actually got that shit more notarized because who who in America can you memorize in Lucha Libre other than Rey Mysterio or Eddie Guerrero? Because I'm joking, but yeah, I just wanted to give this show some respects because I love the episodic takes out of it. It never took itself that seriously. It was always a dramatic showcase. Every episode felt like it was not too long for me to take off. It's only an hour. And it's only 3 to 4 matches you can watch. I think that's suitable time for a show like this where it's going to be everything off the wazoo. It's going to be primarily spots. And there's always going to be an interesting concept. Because the manager was just so cool. He's like, we here for a tradition. He's not like, I'm just here to give the people a good show tonight. He's literally like, I'm just here to make the best show possible. To try to give us more money. And I'm here to raise the stakes. Because what other fan doesn't want to see risk with their reward? That's a cool manager. That actually sounds like an interesting manager. I don't think we've seen stuff like that since Eric Bischoff, back when he was the GM of Monday Night Raw. So that's a guy I can get behind. And now he's over on MLW, probably making great hardcore Japanese strong style lucha libre matches because that's all you advertise, just the wrestling. You don't advertise the wrestlers, and you don't advertise the show. And I always liked the Latino aspect on it. It always felt like a great show. The fans, I'll tell you something about the fans. They were crazy about everything that happened in the show, and I appreciate that. And I haven't seen fans that dedicated to everything going on in the show since TNA back around the late 2000s. Like, those fans were popping over everything. They had a right to for some of the stuff that actually was exciting back in the day. And now, like a simple Canadian destroyer up the top rope, that barely even gets a pop nowadays. So, crazy enough how we can see people watch a Lucha Libre match and they're actual casual, normal fans. They don't look like they don't live with their mother. These guys look like they wouldn't mind coming to the show out of their time off and actually enjoying themselves. So that's what I like about Lucha Underground. Now, if I wish it could have stayed a little bit longer. I always like the storylines with like AR Fox and of course Killshot, Penta being a badass when he was actually a legit top guy. Now he's just a mid-carder for life at this point, I guess. I wish I could have saw Santana and Ortiz there because they're cool. Just more extensive storylines and with that cinematography. I don't think we couldn't see a lot of cinematic matches with certain shows if it wasn't for that. It just a lot more cooler characters, and it shows that's like you like selling your promotion. Like even like you gotta give it respect. Even Vince Russo enjoyed it for a time being because it was just different from everything else, and you gotta give respects to that. I think Lucha Underground doesn't get the notoriety it deserves because it's just not a work rate show. It just doesn't just extensifies off just pure wrestling. It's like, okay, it's Lucha Libre themed. It got Latino aspects. It goes dramatic and it treats itself like an episodic show. Wrestling fans don't like that. They don't like something episodic. They don't like something that keeps them invested. They just feel like, oh, I just want to see her. I just want to see the tope suicidas. I just want to see the super kicks, and that's it. These guys don't relate to me because these guys want to be characters. They don't want to be just there. And yeah, that's all I got. I advise you guys to watch it. I think it's on Hulu, Netflix. It used to air Lucha Underground. I don't think it's there anymore. You can go on any other websites and find some old episodes, and you guys would know what I'm talking about. But yeah, you'll get to see some of the guys that probably you anti-smarks or regular fans would get to know, like Killer Cross was there for a later time, Sammy Guevara, and all the other wrestlers I mentioned earlier around the video. I just feel like this was a slept-on show around the 2010s, and you guys should at least watch a few episodes if you're invested. I don't know if they're ever going to bring this back because, over the wrestlers that couldn't come, I mean, I think Del Rio no-showed. It, it suffered a lot of flack. But that's it for me. Thanks for watching the DST show.